Um, so within that actual portfolio, you want to have a variety to keep people working. And that's kind of where I was talking about, you want to start planning for 2022 now, so that if, say, things dry up in the VMS or direct client, you can shift your people to other types of work. Some of the things that have worked for us that are an option, and maybe, you know, something that might help going forward, would be flu clinics. State and local, there is no real recipe that I can give for the flu clinics, except for one, reach out to the companies that are doing it, because that's a subcontracting opportunity. And then two, connect with your state Department of Health. Just because it's done so differently, we only did it on the corporate side of things. But with COVID and flu and all of it happening at the same time, and the potential second flu vaccination, or third flu vaccination coming out, there's an opportunity. So you really want to look at different things to see where there might be other opportunities for you to provide staffing. The other thing too is your profit margins on your VMSs are going to look a little bit different and sometimes be a little bit less than direct clients, just because of the way that it's structured. They have more control or say so over the rates. You're not able to kind of always go in at your top end of things, but it can help you float people if you're having issues with your direct client. So that's why I wanted to bring up the topic about bill rates. Me and Lena, and probably Travis, I probably talk with everybody at some point about bill rates, but it's important that in creating your bill rate that you have a range. So I'm not going to so much get into like specific numbers as much as I'm going to just kind of talk about generic numbers and how it'll work out to your benefit. In that, if your bill rate for whatever position is, say it's $20, your range should be 20 to 22. And one of the reasons why is for your VMS, you may have to be at the low end of your range, which is 20. And then for your direct clients, you may have to be at the higher end of the range, which could be 22 or whatever, you know, whatever that is, so that each time, or in situations like this where the crisis rates are going away, that you may have to drop someone's pay, you don't want to have an impact on their pay. And you also want to evaluate, is it worth it to drop the pay? So that's a tricky question, but in doing so and having the pay ranges, you also want to have bill rate ranges and bill rate and pay ranges. The same concept, if you're saying, hey, I'm going to pay 10, your range will be 10 to 12. So when you post jobs, I don't want you to post 10 to 12. I want you to pick a range and drop it. But you want to always know, hey, I can only accept contracts from clients, whether it's VMSs or what have you, or direct bills or whatever it is, that fall within my bill rate of 20 to 22 for long-term care. So then that kind of gives you a baseline of what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. So if I come to you and I'm a facility and I say, hey, we're offering 23 or we're offering 27, that's fine. But where that factors in is that it's still within your range. It's a little bit over, which is fine. You can always be over. But when you pay people, you don't go outside of that range, because you have to factor in, as your company grows and you bring on more people, the variables. So the things that don't have like a specific financial impact, but can impact the business. And some examples of this would be, and I'm telling you guys from my experience, an incident at a facility. If a person hurts himself at the facility, your business is responsible to send them to Concentra. We had to send somebody to Concentra. She jammed her finger in a door or something. We had to send her to Concentra. We had to pay the bill. We had to do the workers' comp claim. There was no claim, but that's the stuff that you have to pay for. So that extra money at that bill rate is to pay for those variable things, those incidentals that you have no control over. If an employee files an unemployment claim, you have to complete the paperwork. You have to do the research, provide the additional documentation. 9 times out of 10 with staffing agencies, and it just depends, it may not go anywhere, but if they need you to do other things, i.e. show up at court or go down to the office or do any other process, depending on the state you're in, you have to do that. If an employee has COVID and they file a claim against your workers' comp, that's on you. If you decide, which I wouldn't decide to, but if you decide to include a COVID clause where if someone gets it at the facility, you'll pay them for 2 weeks, that's your responsibility. If there's any sort of situation, and we had this as well at our at one of our facilities, where the person was like exposed to somebody's blood, you know, they had to go to the hospital, you know, and or assaulted at work or anything like that. So you have to kind of think about, hey, there needs to be a pool of money for my agency if there are additional costs that I haven't factored into my regular budget. So your budget, your line items might be commercial space, office supplies, budgeting, it might be a VA and things like that, but there has to be a section that involves variables that you may not happen ever, might happen every month. You also want to, and Lena touched on this, and this is the case even with some direct clients. If the contract is canceled, if the facility cancels it and they say, well, you have to pay us, or the employee cancels it, and then that's money that you're not going to get. So all of those things you want to consider when you're setting, of course, setting up the actual bill rate, but in creating the range, you don't want to move outside of that. So that's why before I was talking about you should have bill rates, regular bill rates that are not related to COVID. Then you want to have overtime bill rates, and then COVID, not so much COVID as much as hazard bill rates. So that as you're kind of moving through creating your budgets and forecasting for 2022, you'll know where everything will kind of fall in, and you can guesstimate, because that's essentially what most budgets are, is a guess. Until you do it for a year, you can guesstimate additional costs, additional income, as well as how much you're making off of every hour that your employee works. Some other things I want to touch on, and then I'll let you guys ask questions, is now that you guys have kind of had an experience, you've been doing it for a little bit, highs and lows, you've had direct contracts. I think everybody's at least had, you know, that initial interaction with the direct contracts. Once you kind of reach a couple of employees working, this is a really great time to also take a step back and really look at how your process works and consider what makes sense, what's working for me and what's not working for me, and what do I need to change. I encourage people, don't go into the first of the year and make those changes because, hey, all of my employees started and then all of them stopped working. That's an indication that even though people don't believe it, people leave because of leadership 9 times out of 10 before they leave because of the actual job. Being a nurse, whether it's long-term care, med surg, or whatever, is something most of us have done for years. So that piece hasn't changed. But if we have a challenging experience, whether it be at the facility level or at your agency level, that'll kind of shift it from, hey, I'm happy here, I love it, everybody's so great and awesome, to, okay, let me start looking for another job. And you have to be mindful of that and do check-ins with your employees and show your appreciation for what they're doing on a regular basis. And it doesn't always have to be financial, as much as it should just be an acknowledgement. Now, don't get me wrong, you should definitely do a little financial stuff, but acknowledgement, whether it's a card, a spotlight on your Instagram, you know, this amazing employee joined our business, turned us around, she's been whatever, and sharing their experiences. It goes a lot longer than you just throwing money at them, even though there are definitely a pool of applicants who want that. But in my opinion, the applicant that just wants money isn't the best applicant for us, because they'll leave for the next crucial assignment or favorite assignment or SNAP nurse assignment. And that's not something that realistically you can keep up with, nor should you set that expectation. Versus, just like there's hundreds of nurses that'll deploy for those companies, there's also quite a few nurses in your local neighborhood that'll be like, okay, you know, that works for them. Hey, I'm just interested in making a couple of extra dollars. If you can meet that need, I need to be closer to home. I need to be, you know, at home if that's the case. And I just want to work weekends, or I just want to work a couple of night shifts. you can accommodate that. And it's sometimes hard to find them in the pool of applicants, but trust me, there are quite a few more of them, which is why you always see Crucial Favorite and all these other companies sending out the mass messages, because if they had access to as many people as they claim, they can just go back to the pool of applicants and pull from that pool. But they're always posting because there are people who just want to be at home, closer to family, you know, for various reasons. Oh, okay. And then some other things just to kind of think through as you go into 2022 is organization. So a few noses, not really you guys necessarily, get to the point where they think that they're ready to grow, but don't take into account their internal, I'm talking about how you run your business on the inside, process from an organizational standpoint of view. So I give this as an example, and it's been me, so I understand it. If you don't know what you're doing tomorrow, then you're not as organized as you need to be. If you miss out on meetings or you can't return calls or things like that, then you're probably not as organized as you need to be. And that's something that you want to add to your list of improvements for your business, because the more unorganized that you are, it will show. You know, I think as nurses, and even in my experience, we get into the habit of juggling so much on the floor that kind of becomes second nature. But as you transition into business, I know for you guys, I know for us, there has to be a point at which you want to feel comfortable to take a step back. So like last week, I took a whole vacation. Now, it doesn't mean I was checked out from everything, but it does mean that I put in place the right people that I felt comfortable with that are going to do the things that I needed to get done while I was, you know, sitting at the beach or whatever. But I can still check in, they'll still give me updates, but I won't be how I was 3 years ago, bombarded with phone calls. Took 2 days off, bombarded with phone calls, emails, and it wasn't a fun experience. So part of starting your own business for many people is that freedom, that financial freedom, work from anywhere, work flexibility, you know, leaving a legacy. But in order to do that, you really want to build that right foundation. So a couple of things that I would encourage you guys to do as we go into October and wrap up this month is to really sit down and create a true organizational chart, meaning who's going to do what, even if those positions are vacant. So if you're going to have a CEO, a COO, a business operations, a human resources, a recruiting, compliance, put that in a visual format so that when you go into 2022, you can kind of say to be filled in 2022 or second quarter 2022. So that you know, hey, once we reach these certain goals, this is the job that I want to fill next. Other thing is assess how the business is doing and kind of talk through, hey, what's working in our business, what's not working. And it just doesn't have to be the business. It could be your technology that you're using, a scheduling app. It could be a VA that's not working. So just like the business as a whole, it could be your communication tools or resources or your style. And then also think about, hey, what are some goals that I have for the business as we go into 2022? And I would set the goals not just to say, hey, I want a certain number of employees versus saying, I want this type of employee. You know, I want to be in this region of the state, because moving to another state is, you know, is or is not a good idea depending on how great you're doing in the state that you're in. I'm a believer, master where you are and then move. But if you're in multiple states, really, you know, hone in. Why not take over the whole state first? Then also, you know, think about budgets. So my expectation of you guys, no pressure, is that you have budgets and forecasting for your business. So what does the monthly budget look like? How much are you spending? You know, where is the money going? How is it coming in? What are you paying out? Do you need to pay it out? Is there something else? Can you get it for cheaper? Does it make sense to have it now? Should you wait? Those types of things. And then also the funding piece, forecasting is kind of what helps you do the funding. Like if you're looking to transition to self-fund at some point, that's kind of where you want to forecast, you know, hey, we're bringing in this much money. We're going to put aside this so that by second quarter 2022, our account is at $50,000. And also on the personal level, from a personal level of your leader, people look up to you, people have expectations of you. If there are places or areas that you need to improve on in that, whether it be your communication style, or it could be, you know, how you deal with difficult situations, it could be presentation or cold calling or marketing the business. Those are all things that you as the leader of the business can improve on. And it's something that I would encourage you to do, as well as get feedback from your employees. So you want to make sure that you know that your employees like where they're working, and not in a, as definitely directly is nice, but more in an indirect way where they can feel comfortable with saying, hey, Shamika, you know, sometimes ... Or I really like the way that you ... But I prefer if we didn't have to submit our time cards on Fridays, if we had an app, or what have you. So you want to incorporate that too in your planning as you go into 2022, so that, hey, if there's needs that you can meet for them, you are able to do just that. So, and of course, at the end of this, I'll send you guys an evaluation and stuff. But that's all I have. Any questions? Mercy.
Yes, my question is back to the change of bill rate within CSU. Do you feel like I could potentially put myself liable for additional monies if both of my people that are getting the lower rates decide they don't want to move it, they want to be done with it? They'd rather just in their contract than to take a lower rate.
Honestly, for the person who just has a couple of weeks, you might have to eat that cost later. Like that might be my suggestion for her. And for the other person that has a little bit more time, I'm not sure. I would have to see we would have to see the numbers to have her finish out the contract. For the one who you said just has a week, is worth eating the cost. And that's where I was kind of touching on, and we talked about already, is in giving yourself that cushion. If the money was already there, right? If we weren't at the top end necessarily, then you could have just given it to her, you know, and maybe just broke even on that particular contract with her as far as pay was concerned. That one, I don't feel like it's worth it. And then you can probably place her in something else at the lower rate, and just kind of explain that, it's no longer COVID rate. If she's had a good experience, if she's gone this far into the contract, I'm going to just assume that she's had a good experience. So I wouldn't worry so much about her or do anything different with her. But for the other person that might have some more time, you might have to play around with the numbers. You may have to offer a bonus. I'm not sure, because this is all new. So like this piece of it, as far as them dropping the COVID rates, is kind of new because they've never had COVID rates. The most they've done was the premium rates that you guys see, where it may say like plus 20 or something like that. So what I will say is, for other people, because one, I believe it's going to come back. I think it's a money thing. It's a fiscal year thing than it is anything else. I think adjusting all the contracts moving forward is the best idea. So like all of the contracts, as far as how much you're paying, is the best idea, and not being at the top end of that. And then if you can take money from other resources to kind of fill in the blank for this person, it might be worth it. And then you may be able to make up for the difference in the next contract, if you know what I mean. So like, I think the goal with these two people is, the first lady, you might just have to eat that one. But in eating it, if she's happy at that place and she wants to extend, then her working again and you dropping the rate, might not be a thing, right? And then you may be able to make up the difference that you had to pay out for the crisis rates for her. Did that make sense?
Yes, it did. It did.
Yeah, so you just have to move the money around a little bit for that situation, or for anybody else that might be in that situation as well. There are times when you just need to move the money around. So like some situations are, hey, it's whatever it's gonna be. And then some situations to me are, okay, what are some ways I can fix it? It's a week. She's probably gonna work 3 days. We can figure that out for her. Especially if it means that, which you should probably check in with her to see if she wants to extend, if one is offered extension. We can eat that, especially if it means that she can do another 6 weeks or another 4 weeks. And then we can kind of make up for it in the meantime. So, and then of course, moving forward, we'll keep it a little tighter so that way we're not hitting the top end of things for these types of situations. So
that's one of my issues though, like being comfortable with a bill rate and not feeling like, man, I wish I can give them more. Like looking at the market here in Arizona is like CNAs making anywhere now from 16 upwards of 23 to 24 in some places. So
right.
like trying to stay competitive, but try not to pay too much, because I do realize I have been paying too much. So I don't really know where that sweet spot is. So like that's kind of put a halt to my marketing too, because I want to be able to promote a price that I'm comfortable with. And I don't even know what that number should be no more. Like I'm literally been thinking about it for days.
So I think one, your job as a staffing agency owner isn't to pay them what you think they should have. And I think I talked about this when I reached out and said the 2K email, you pay them what they want. You have to shift the hat. That's what a nurse does. Well, you should get more money. That's true. I agree with that. But from a perspective of a business owner, you give people what they want. And the rates in Arizona are similar to New Mexico, like 18 to 20. So like I mentioned, people want more. But there are plenty of people that will work for what they're comfortable with. And there's nothing wrong with giving someone, like if they were making 18 to 20, giving someone 28 to 32. There's nothing wrong with that. If they're doing COVID, or just offering 30. And you have to, because there are varying types of applicants, you have to kind of weed through the people that are like, oh, well, that's too low. Okay, well, then the job is not for you. But there are definitely people in that same post that may say, oh, the job is too low. And then someone will be like, oh, well, I'm interested. You know what I mean? That's the person you want to work with. What people say are low is high. People said before, CNAs in Georgia making $12 is too low. Don't get me wrong, that is way too low. But CNAs worked for $12. When I was a CNA, I worked for $12. So it's not our job to kind of determine the fairness of it all as much as what makes sense. Because you can give them more and still be fair and be competitive, but you can also give them more and ultimately hurt your business, because you'll be the highest paying staffing agency that is just the highest paying staffing agency. So in order for you to grow, you need money. In order for you to expand into other states, you need money. You have to pay state taxes, you have to pay payroll taxes. So that's more of what I think you want to spend some time with, Lena, is kind of what's the vision for the agency? What do you want to do with it? Yes, you want to kind of toll on the fact that you're nurse owned, but at the end of the day, it's still a business. So it's going to need the income to run. So I know there are a lot of agencies and companies that are saying, hey, we're cutting out the middleman, so on and so forth. That's fine. But you paying too much only hurts you. Because if they like you or don't like you, they'll stay or they don't stay. So if you pay them top of the line, they can still leave. If you pay them somewhere in the middle, they can still leave. And if you pay them on the lower end, they can still leave. So it benefits you most to hit somewhere in the middle, because at least then for the time that they're there, which, you know, agency work is all temporary, you can get the biggest benefit. Anything
So it
else?
falls into you just being comfortable with your rate and setting it and just not really playing let's make a deal, because that's where the headache come in.
No, no deals are made here. It's what it is. And I'm fine with it not being what it is for you. People have options. So you kind of have to see it's a two-way street. People have options, which is nice. But I also have the option to opt out of working with you. So you don't want to, definitely don't get into let's make a deal, because you're never going to win, because people are going to always want more. And then also, you don't want to waste time doing that. Hey, this is what I pay, is the conversation that I have. If people are interested, we'll continue the process. If they're not, we won't hear from them again. And that's okay, because then the next several hours of my day isn't spent figuring it out with you for you to say no anyway. So I get right to it. And if they're going to say, oh, don't work for them, they're low paying agency, that means you're popular. We've all gotten those comments on Facebook. It's never anything personal. It does not matter. Many people still apply through Kamana and other resources. We're still okay. So just kind of separating that, I think is key. And just kind of, you know, seeing it face value. So, hey, yeah, I can do this. This doesn't make sense. It's not a good look to be here with it. As far as pay rates are concerned, I can't sustain it. Okay, you need to do something different. And it doesn't matter, because I think when I talked about bill rates, I didn't really touch on this. It doesn't matter what the bill rate is. If you say, no matter what the bill rate is, I want to take 20% of that to either pay them or pay myself, stick to that. Or you say, I want to take, like I've seen some people say like $14. I don't like using the dollar amount versus the percentage, because for some things you shouldn't just take $14 for $59. For a $59 CNA rate, you shouldn't take $14 or $15, or that be your take home. That's not reasonable. You should definitely take more.
So when you first started, what was your percentage that you was getting?
We did about 22%, 18 to 22%, which is average. And this is just coming back into the business. It doesn't mean we took anything home, because we didn't. In the beginning, it's just that percentage always came back into the business, no matter what the bill rate was. And then you also have to factor in, for us, our bill rates were more consistent and steady, because that's what the industry was. So now there's been a lot of shift and a lot of shaking. 2022 is going to look interesting. Hopefully we'll be in some sort of resolve with COVID, and not be continuing to spike. So it's kind of, for us, we had a more stable industry, so we could maintain that. But for you guys, it's a little bit bumpier, but not in a bad way, but it's more bumpier. So it's harder to get that, because your talent pool is a little bit broader in that they want more. So like our CNAs were making $18 to $20, and they were very happy.
Now it seems like it's impossible. I ain't gonna say it's impossible, but now that they took away the crisis rates and I'm looking at them numbers, I'm like, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how we're gonna get people to work for these low wages. But it's only low because we come from that crisis era where we used to seeing it so high. So I'm literally staring at this job board like something gotta happen, but this is what it was before though. So I don't know.
Yeah, realistically, it was just like, it's not so much that anything is new, except that, and this is a great thing to include in your goals, kind of how you deal with these types of changes, because we know COVID is just a precursor to whatever the new virus will be that'll pop out after it. So that kind of allows you to kind of say, hey, in hazard situations, this is how our agency is going to operate. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to recruit. This is how we're going to market. Because even though we're coming out of it little by little, it's still a struggle, in that you do have those people who want $30. I am not paying a CNA $30, but it's not to say that you guys can't. And some of it is based on the sustainability. So going from 18 to 30 or 36, yes, you should get more. I do agree, but you're not going to get $30. You might get a $500 sign-on bonus. You might get a $500 end of contract bonus. Those types of things you might get. That is a different amount of money than an extra $20 to $18 on top of your hourly rate. So you just have to shift the same money and move it a little differently. So this is a time where you want to do $100 application completion types of things, or $50 pickup shift bonuses. And I don't know if you do that, Travis, in Alabama, or even Pam, if you guys do that. This is where you want to do it, where it's not that you're paying them less or more, you're just moving the money around. So giving someone $500 one time is different than giving them an extra $500 every week. But if you put it on the front end of an offer, people are more enticed by it. So even when I see them on Staffing, oh, that's $500, that's great. Or if you want to pick jobs that have those attached to it, the $500, they can start at 72 hours. That money is coming back to the agency. You can add a couple of extra dollars. Like that'll get me closer to $2 extra potentially. Then it'll get me to, oh, the regular rate is this. I'm giving them 30 because that's what they want. That's fine. I may not be the right fit for someone who works $30, but I guarantee you there's somebody out there. It could be someone who maybe he's only been a CNA for a year. It could be a new grad, because that question has come up a lot. A new grad with some experience. For me, even though other people have done it, I am very leery of putting a new grad into a long-term care setting, especially with COVID. Not to say they can't do well, but I probably will be more comfortable, and I've seen other people do it, putting a new grad in an assisted living type of setting, which are very different. And I don't know if all of you guys or any of you guys have worked in long-term care or assisted living, but the comparison is totally different. So, or working with CNA schools or, your local schools to find people who may, have less experience, but be good at the job. So.
Is there a 1-year requirement for CSU? I don't think it is, but I just want to double check with you. So you can give them a new grad. A nursing student. What about a nursing student who's almost done with nursing school but just got her CNA? How do you feel about that?
Nursing student is fine. We've done nursing students, CNA, nursing students who are completing school and work as CNAs. Yes, we've done that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. So that's
okay. Fine. I have another question, and nobody else asking no questions right now. Taking advantage. What is your thoughts on marketing to bring your social media following up and, kind of making your applicant pool that way? Like, what do you do to drive people into your Instagram and for his Facebook business page and things like that?
So like Facebook and Instagram operate a little bit differently. So for Facebook, I think the main thing that's helped us is, once you start your business page, usually Facebook will say, hey, invite some people to like your page. That's always a great place to start. So if you haven't invited me to like your page, please go ahead and do so. I think I've liked everybody's pages, but just in case, feel free to do that. That usually gets it started. And then doing a variety of posts from jobs to, depending on your style, if you do something funny or you do something interactive, doing videos. People love a video. Now, I know some of us are like, oh, I don't know. People love a video. For Facebook videos, my videos do very, very well. And then if you're going to do like a spotlight on your employee or your business, spotlighting the employee is a great thing because they want to see, okay, so this is a great agency. It looks nice. How do the employees feel? And it doesn't have to be employees that are working in the field. It could be internal staff if you have them. Sharing a little bit about yourself is always great for Facebook. For Instagram, it's a little bit different. So Instagram is a little bit more visual. And what I've learned that works the best is they actually want to see pictures of you doing stuff. Reflection pieces really do well. So like I recently put up on my Instagram about, what did it say? Well, I've done a couple of different ones, but I've done the where I am now versus where I was types of posts so that they can kind of see the journey. I've done like when I did vacation, I did do a post about my vacation a little bit because that just makes it for you to feel more relatable and makes it feel like they know you. Even if they've never met you, which is really the case for most of the NOSAs. I met a handful of NOSAs, but no one's ever met me in person. But seeing different elements of your life to see that you're a multidimensional person. So I'm just not the NOSA group. I have a life, I have a family, we have stuff going on, we go on vacation, we do stuff. So to know that and see that about you makes people feel more comfortable with you. And then that'll increase a lot of your likes and engagement. And then the other thing around jobs, like when you're posting jobs on Instagram, is telling people what you want them to do. So if you do a job post and you want people to apply, tell them, hey, apply here, check out this great job. You should definitely apply. If you want them to like your business page, hey, check out our business page. We made some changes. We're doing some great things. Check us out, like us on Facebook. Refer us to a friend. Share this post to your stories. Connect with us tonight on Instagram Live. So to me, the posts that tell people what to do or tell them what to do next beyond just looking at the post and liking it creates the most engagement. And definitely the ones with pictures of you either doing stuff with other NOSAs, like I have pictures with other NOSAs, I have pictures of me doing stuff, pictures of me on travel. And then I have, I share other NOSA stuff so that it kind of creates like that whole collaboration thing. Like I probably have shared on my stories, because stories are more active for me, about these little sessions we're doing, the sessions I've done with other people, I'll tag you. And that also gets a lot of views. I don't do too many Facebook stories because they're tied to each other. So Facebook owns Instagram. So you can post on Instagram stories and post on Facebook stories. But a lot of that is depending on if people look at your stories, which is a whole nother thing. But to create the engagement and the following is, hey, check us out, look at us, how much fun, this will be great. You should look into, try, those types of things work or have worked best on Instagram. TikTok. So TikTok is a little bit, it's more fun, it's more entertaining for me, but there are a lot of nurses, regular everyday nurses, promoting people's businesses. Staffing agencies post on TikTok. I'm talking, and I'll send one to you guys today. One nurse promoted some company, I don't know if it was Trusted or Lead or one of those staffing agencies, just one of their jobs. They promote their job boards, they promote job opportunities, and they do it mostly to get their following up, but they're actually giving free promo. And typically they work for those agencies or not. Some of them may not. I don't think there's any compensation for most of them about it. So they're not getting paid. So they're not like brand ambassadors, but they're like, hey, check out these jobs. We told you they can pay. You can get $3,000 as an LPN. And then they'll show the job of that particular agency in the background. And it'll have, the information, agency ABC, the job, the pay. And then that particular job will get 3,000 hearts, which is the same thing as likes, and over 500 engagement, where people are commenting on that job. So that's an idea. Like in TikTok, people are apprehensive, but some people, that's all that they do. Some people's TikToks are essentially just them sharing jobs. Hey, I told you guys, hey, California has $11,000 a week. I might go back out there and start working again. Post the job, like where you guys see this here, BU, the job will be there, all the information. They'll pin it to their comments, contact this person. Sometimes they are connected to some sort of referral system. Sometimes they're not. So social media is, if you're not on it, it's the way to go. That's where nurses hang out. And when I get a chance, I'll send you guys one that kind of gives that example of them doing it. And then nurses follow nurses who follow more nurses and things like that. I don't see as many agencies on there as much. But TikTok even advertised their own jobs on TikTok. Walmart advertised jobs, Verizon advertised jobs on TikTok. And their algorithm's a little funny, in my opinion, than the other platforms, but it's a free advertisement and way to connect with people who have similar interests. So like, one of the things with TikTok is once you kind of get established and you're, figure out their whole way of doing things, you'll start to see more posts that are similar to, or TikToks that are similar to what you're interested in. Because they have like a For You page and a following page. So I spend most of my time on the For You page, which is essentially nurse related stuff, sometimes food. So those types of things will pop up. So I hope that answers your question. You guys have any other questions for me? Because I'm gonna wrap up, guys. Or updates.
I'm just, so I actually missed the first part. I guess it was like the first 10 minutes. What were y'all discussing then?
We're just getting updates. So Travis and Lena gave their updates on what's going on in their business. So that's why when you popped in, I just said you can give your update. So that's all it was, what's going on with them. Both of them have people in Stafferlink working. I think Travis people are working next week. Travis, and you can speak on your behalf, Travis, because sometimes my memory.
It's fine, it's fine. Yeah, I have 2 CNAs that's going to Alabama next week. And so I'm just going through the credentialing process and making sure that I have all the documentation. They requested that I have all the documentation 4 days before they arrive, which is, of course, that's Monday. And so this weekend, I have most of everything that I need. It's just a few things. And really, I need to just upload the things that I have. So I'm doing it now, and I'll be doing it this weekend. So that's about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you just submit them?
I did. I just submitted them maybe 3 days ago, and so that was a number in brackets on Stafferlink. I'm sorry, and so it was a 2. And I thought that meant they had 2 positions. So I applied both candidates for that one job. But I think that meant second shift, 3 to 11.
It does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
I misunderstood. So they went in and created another job for the second candidate so they could travel together. So
yeah, let's do that. I'm just glad they took your candidates. I'm still sour, so that's cute.
It's okay, Pam.
I mean, it just sucks. You have like 40 something people you want to submit, and then they don't say anything. I'm happy that it worked out for you.
And maybe you can try again, Pam, if you wanted to. Maybe that was just a glitch.
I'm good with them. I'm good.
Okay, that works too. So, Mercy, you want to tell us what you've been up to? And then I'm gonna wrap it up because I need to go outside.
Well, I had 2 candidates that wanted to work for Stafferlink and then credential them. And then when we got to the attestation of good moral conduct, we realized they had worked for Stafferlink not too long ago, so could not submit them. So back to square one. Hopefully I'll get something for them to do locally. But other than that, I have 2 more people who were wanting to try that. So hopefully we'll see. But now I know to ask them straight up, have you worked for career stuff recently?
Right. So I'll touch a little bit on that. And Mercy, I want you to talk a little bit about your latest contract that you sent over to Amanda. So if an employee has worked for career staff and is still active with the other agency, they cannot also work for your agency. So they have to pick, essentially, is what it comes down to. So they either have to work for the agency that they're currently working for, or leave that agency and work for you. So they can't, which is what happened with us as well. This actually happened when a person was on a contract with us. They worked for us. So we were the first agency in a contract, and then attempted to work for the second agency doing per diem shifts. So StaffLink will not allow it. And it created a lot of confusion, payroll issues. So I tell people, ask them if they're still working for that agency, especially if they put Genesis down as one of their clients or one of their former employers. Or you can say, hey, have you ever worked for Genesis Properties before? And then from there, you can kind of get some more information.
Yep, now I know to ask.
So Mercy, tell a little bit about what happened with Amanda, and you got that contract. Yeah, I believe you did. And a little bit of the outcome, just so everybody knows. As in,
Are you talking about the one that they were bankrupt?
yes. We'll talk a
Okay.
little bit about how you got the contract, Mercy, please. That's important to the story.
Okay, so I think it was from LinkedIn. I got the lead, and
You didn't tell me that. Okay.
so I got the lead, and so I made contact, and she asked me to send her my rates, and I did. And she didn't even call me back. And then next thing I know, I have a contract that's signed. I had not even thought, to go to Amanda before all this. So anyway, I after she signed it, I wrote to Amanda and asked her to check the credit. Come to find out, they're in bankruptcy, and they're in court since 2019. So I just wrote back to her nicely and just said, I can't be able to staff you because of XYZ reasons, the reasons that, you're bankrupt, and that was it.
Cool. So I wanted to share this. So just like there are risks with the vendor management systems, there's also risks with direct clients. I know you guys have seen the post in the group, maybe saying something to, oh, this client owes me $50,000, $60,000. So you kind of want to use resources like Amanda, or if you have other companies, to run the business credit, so that you're not kind of getting in with a facility thinking you're making all this money and then come to find out they don't pay their bills. So I will say, for the most part, we've never had that experience with StaffLink as far as payment, but some people have had challenges. It's not that they don't pay. I'm not going to get into what I think it is. I don't know. It didn't happen to us. To be mindful of it, because I would hate for anybody to get a direct client and kind of be stuck, because then you're having to take them through collections, you're having to front invoices and things of that nature. So definitely use Amanda. She does business credit runs, or other resources, to make sure that they indeed can do what they say they can do. Because just like agencies and people, sometimes they present as something different than they really are. So you don't want to have them, you're billing thousands of hours, and then 30 days in, you're not receiving your payment, and you're kind of flip-flop.
Oh, and to add on to that, they're part of a chain of assisted living facilities. So I know that, they're out there. There are many of them. So.
And that's a great point too, Mercy, because just because the facilities are up and running doesn't mean they pay their bills. Just because they're medium to large does not mean they pay their bills. Genesis Properties have been dinged before. I don't think it's as of recent. It's not across the board for some of their pieces of their portfolio being sold off, mostly because they were having some financial issues with those particular properties. So just kind of be in the mix of the financial side of things so that you don't get burned. with those types of situations where you have to take people into collections and wait and wait and wait and hope and hope and hope. Just do your due diligence on the front end, especially with the direct clients, because sometimes you won't know as easily that they have these different financial situations going on. Because they're, they might be only in Washington State or only in Texas or only in, the Southeast. So getting access to their information is a little bit different than a nationwide company. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys have a fantastic Friday, the rest of your weekend. Take out some time and kind of do some planning, goal setting for the business for 2022, or we can set a date. Maybe I'll set a date in October for us to kind of go through some of that. Are you guys, anybody here going to TravCon at the end of the month? Just me? Okay, that's cool. Anyway, we're gonna be doing a trivia night, so you guys should jump in and meet some of the other nurses. We'll be doing a trivia night in Vegas. It'll be virtual, so I would love for you guys to join in. Other than that, as always, feel free to message on Messenger if you have any questions or anything, if anything comes up. If you want me to talk about a particular topic, let me know, just message me, and I can talk about it. And then these videos, the one I did about VAs and this one will go up the weekend for you guys to check out who missed it. Okay?
Hey, thank you.
All right, you guys have a good weekend.
You too.
All right, bye.